Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman, and I am here with your friend and my friend too, and all of our trusty producers, Max Curvin. Max, how's it going?
Good, I'm great.
We also have our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. Shane, what's up?
Yo, yo.
So this is a big episode, guys. This is the Vice Principals episode, and Vice Principals is premiering Season 2, Sunday, September 17th at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on HBO Canada. We're all going to be watching it.
Of course we are.
Woo! Well, I've already seen some because we did this before the interview. We were able to screen some episodes, which was nice.
I wasn't able to.
One of the perks of the gig. I didn't watch it, but yeah.
But we will get to those a bit later. Guys, we literally just got back into town a couple days ago from Miami.
And how many salads have you guys had since you got back?
About 4.
I've just eaten exclusively salads
Yeah.
since I got back.
I got too into bad food mode. I've been eating bad food.
You've just continued the binge?
Yeah. It's hard to wean off.
Off the airplane straight to McDonald's?
He gets home,
Yeah.
his wife's like, Shane, why are you drinking 20 cans of beer a day still?
Yeah, I'm still hungover though. And it's been 4 days. Like, I feel horrible.
If you could see it, would be extra funny.
Because I'm just sweating like a pig. I just came from the gym, so you guys know.
Set the scene, though. Who were we celebrating? Whose marriage, impending marriage, were we celebrating?
All right, so in our gang, if you've listened to our podcast, you know that a bunch of us are kind of in that marrying age, and for the last couple of years, we've been lucky enough to go on these bachelor trips before guys get married. This year, our friends Sean and our friend Peak.
The song Drake's Dad, by the way, takes place on a bachelor trip in Memphis and Nashville.
That's for Julian, yeah.
Julian's bachelor trip.
The famous Jules who takes his shirt off and gets thrown out of all of your shows.
Yeah, if you've ever seen a shirtless man dancing on Arkel's Instagram, that is Julian. And from the song Round and Round.
That is absolutely correct. Like I said, we do these bachelor trips. They're a great time. This was the biggest one that's ever taken place because we were combining two. We had Sean and Peak, and we had about 20 guys, and we all went down there to Miami, South Beach, and it was a good time.
Yeah.
The nut was there.
The nut was there. Now, Miami ain't cheap. And
No.
and I think there's been an effort, with becoming an adult to be a little more responsible fiscally.
Yeah, it's what slush funds are for.
We'll get to that. But and I think the logic though is like combining 2 bachelor trips into one. We're all saving money. But the thing, Miami Beach is like a very expensive place.
Oh, yeah. Tell my credit card with a conversion.
Oh,
did anyone look at their cards when they got back?
It
was
no,
insane.
hell no. Are you kidding me? I don't look at that stuff. Jesus.
My wife looked at him.
Did she?
And she's never looked at credit card statements before in her life. She got my bank passwords, and she went through everything.
What?
I think she didn't believe me about that we didn't go to a strip club.
We did not go to a strip club.
We didn't go to a strip club.
But she went
It
back.
sounds like 3 guilty men.
Yeah.
We did not. Everyone's verifying.
We all
the story.
practiced the way that we would say it.
Well, we actually didn't.
We didn't.
No.
We never. We didn't for mine.
I swear to God, I've never been to a strip club. I'm kidding.
So she checked all of your shit.
Yeah, she went back 1.5 years, though. Like, that's extreme. She's like, it only goes back to April 2016. I'm like, what are you doing? Like a documentary on our like financial history? But I was clean. Hookers.com. What's that? It's a phishing website.
Oh man.
But yeah, so Sean Dawson and Matt McPeak
Yep.
were the guys getting married, and we love them dearly. And part of the job of organizing a bachelor trip is having to corral 20 guys and get them to agree on stuff. But I think everybody's pretty agreeable.
Yep.
What do we do? Let's go through the nights.
All right. So the first night, the nut, as he does, set up this great thing at the Miami Marlins baseball park. So he's like, hey, everybody, for throwing this amount of money, and we're going to have our own suite at this ballpark, food, all you can drink. We're like, all right, sweet. You go to Miami, let's go to a baseball game. We get to this baseball game.
That was $200 though, American, right?
Okay. Let's preface this for a second. So I want to say this: the nut has gotten us into more free concerts and free basketball games and free bottle service and things like that, than we deserve. We have probably had tens of thousands of dollars of entertainment based on the nuts connections, and we haven't waited in line in like three years or whatever.
I'm just waiting for the however.
However, with the suite that he arranged, it was $120 USD a guy, which ain't cheap. And the Marlins are not a hot ticket in town. We probably could have got seats.
We outnumbered all the other fans.
In the stadium altogether.
That's not even a joke. We actually pretty much did.
Yeah, and we got an on-field experience, but we weren't actually allowed to stand on the field.
We couldn't touch the grass. We were allowed to stand on the dirt.
Exactly. And so when we got there, everybody was a little bit tired. And because the stadium wasn't that lively.
It wasn't bumping at all.
Wasn't
the
bumping.
vibe was bad.
Vibe was bad.
a lot of guys hadn't slept the night before to get up for the plane ride. People were worried that they were going to miss the flight.
Yeah, people had to leave Hamilton at like 3 a.m. So anyway, we heard about this bar in center field called Clevelander.
But wait, are we not going to talk about I was the only one with the guts to take my shirt off on the field?
Oh, yeah.
For the field photo?
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, you took your shirt off. And then I wanted everybody to take their shirt off. And then the woman...
So the girl, our escort, like, not...
She was my escort. No, she was mine.
The girl that worked at the park walked us to the field. She takes the photo. Shane takes his thing off. Max is like, everybody take our shirts off. We're the champagne. And she's like, no. She won't let us do it. And I'm like, that's fine. Okay. Let me take the photo. Because then I think that I'm telepathically letting you guys know that I'm going to take it 1, 2, 3, thinking you guys are going to know on 2 to all rip your shirts off. So I'm like, 1, 2. I realize nobody's doing it except for Shane, who's still shirtless. So I'm like, take them off. And then like half go. And then the girl gets really mad that I was trying to get everyone to take their shirts off. And then I had to apologize to her. And I'm like, we're just trying to have a good time.
Yeah,
but she wasn't even that mad. You're like, would you really care if we did? She's like, well, I have to say I would. But
oh, that was what it was. Yeah. So then we go to Clevelanders. In the park in center field, they have this exclusive bar that the Nut, again, gets us wristbands to. I don't think we have to pay extra either.
No, it was awesome. And there's a pool in Cleveland.
There's just a pool and these go-go dancers.
And there's all these games to play, too.
Yeah, so who was the first person to take off their
shirt? And it also looks right into the bullpen. So the opposing team is warming up through a glass beside the pool.
And nobody brought their swimsuit, obviously.
That is true.
We didn't expect to find a pool at a baseball game.
And I don't think anyone was actually in the swimming mood, to be honest.
No.
But what happened was Mike, I'm not sure if you remember this, but you got really excited and ran up to me. And you go, Shane, oh my God, all your favorite things are here. Games and a pool. And I'm like, really? And those are my favorite things. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. So I'm like, oh, guys, let's go in. And the guy's like, no. And I go to the Nut. I go, let's go in. He goes, I'm not going in. I'm not taking my shirt off. I go, come on, let's go. He's like, all right. But then he goes to ask for permission. He goes, are we allowed to go in our underwear? I'm like, you don't ask to break a very minor rule like that. So the guy's like, well, I'd prefer if you didn't, but, whatever. And Nut's kind of like, shit. But I'm like, yeah, rule number 1 is just do it if you're going to break a very minor rule.
Oh, are you suggesting that he was trying to get the guard?
I'm not suggesting it. I'm saying that's exactly what he was doing.
He was trying to get it shut down so he wouldn't have to get in the pool.
Exactly.
Okay.
So then I take off, get in the pool immediately. Nut sheepishly gets in. We're dancing, having a good time. And then one by one, it starts looking like a better time and a better time. And guys start piling in until it's just like, I think 3 guys who aren't in. And then we got it down to just Brody, who is the
organizer.
The organizer and the brother of one of the guys on the bachelor party who were there for. And then once he got in, it was like bedlam. It was like we were like the life of the party. The go-go dancers come out and start dancing. All these presumably gay guys, I'm guessing, came out and started like whistling and hollering at us.
We had guys buying us a round of drinks.
Yeah.
Some guy spent like hundreds of dollars on buying us all drinks for the pool.
A woman walks up and she goes, none of you guys are free-balling, are you? We're like, that's an odd pickup line. But turns out she was a producer and she wanted to bring a camera crew over to film us. Because this is one of the deadest baseball nights ever, and we've generated a little bit of excitement in the arena. So then the camera crew comes over, and we're all on the Jumbotron.
It was triumphant, man.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my dreams is to be on a Jumbotron.
But we did it.
Yeah.
Well, just wait until that footage ends up on Gays Gone Wild. Spring break!
Yeah, well, I've asked the Nut if he could track down that footage, so I think he's on the case. So that'd be sweet, though.
My other dream was, imagine it was on like a sports show in the morning. Like, sometimes they show like fat guy eating a hot dog or something.
Yeah.
Or like Sig guy or whatever.
That would be sweet.
Be awesome. So that was the first night. That's a pretty good first night. So then the next day, we wake up first thing, and people want to go to the racetrack in Miami. So we decided to get an Uber and go and bet on the horses. Really damn fun. I didn't realize how fun it would be.
I did not go to this thing.
You didn't go to this thing, and you missed out because they had $3 tall cans of Pabst, which is not a smart thing to do at 10 a.m. In Miami.
But get this, while you guys were there, the fun thing about these trips is that there's 20 guys, and you end up breaking off into little groups,
Totally.
like during the course of a day, and you never know who you're going to be with, and it's actually kind of nice to spend time with people who aren't necessarily like in your A crew. So, for instance, Matt McPeak, who's one of the guys getting married, his cousin, who we've never met before, came on the trip, and his cousin is named Jeff, and he's a dairy farmer, and he was being introduced to everybody as Cousin Jeff. And somebody thought his name was Kevin Jeff, so then his name quickly became Kevin Jeff. And so we're walking around. Everyone's sort of getting their Gatorade at the Walgreens, and he gets this like huge jug of milk, and he just drinks milk all weekend long because he's a dairy farmer, and
That's
he
weird.
It was a little strange.
His bones are strong as hell.
They are a lot of calcium in there. But anyway, so we're walking by this bar, and everyone's like not really in the mood to have a drink quite yet. And this, the women or the what do they call them? The front, like
Rippers?
like the maitre d', like standing on the sidewalk.
Oh, the hostess, like the
Like-
seater greeter.
Yeah, that. She's like, hey, do you guys want drinks? We'll do a great drink special for you. They're like 2-for-1 cocktails, and the cocktails were like $17. I was like, that's like $8 a drink, and they're like, okay, 2-for-1 cocktails and a shot of tequila. We're like, all right, 2-for-1 cocktails and 2 shots of tequila.
You're getting 4 drinks now.
We're like, 3 shots of tequila. We're like, okay, you got it. And so we got in there, and that's what we.
That's
exactly
some
what we
shrewd
did.
negotiating.
Yeah, so for like $16, we.
That's a good lesson for negotiating. You just seem apathetic.
Yeah.
we just go,
And let them
It's
keep
easy
upping
when
it.
you're hungover, though, and the last thing you want is alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. So while we were at this table having our tequila and cocktails, we were getting messages from you guys at the racetrack about betting it all on black.
Racetrack/casino.
Yeah, and so we have the slush
Yeah.
fund that Brody has.
So the guy that organized it, Brody, who's the brother of one of the grooms, right before we left, he's like, "Hey, everybody, everyone send me $200, and that will be our like." That will be our party fund, is what he called it at the time. We eventually started calling it a slush fund because nobody really knows where the money went. Like, we had some cheap American beer. We ended up, on a party boat.
We ended up on a party.
But either way, Brody was in charge of this slush fund.
Would you say he's good at managing money?
Well, and I'm not one to talk because I would not feel responsible with like having people send me that much money because I don't think I could handle it all.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Brody would be at the top of the list for like financial responsibility.
I'm probably like second lowest on the list, and I'm like Warren Buffett compared to him, I feel like.
But here's the thing: Brody did do a lot of work organizing the thing. So when he
He
asked
did a
for-
ton. So
so-
if he listens to this, you did a great job.
yeah, great
Brody.
job, Brody. You really.
I'd love to know we're about half that slush fund.
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like we're not going to question him if he's asking for $200 for a slush fund. Trust him. But yeah, I think throughout the course of the weekend there were a lot of questions because if you ask Brody, he'd be like, "Oh, we're in the red, guys," and then like half an hour later, he'd be like, "Guys, we got a lot of slush fund money to spend right now."
This encapsulates the slush fund. So like on the last day where we're there, we're end up at this bar called the Deuce, which is kind of like a dive bar. And Burchell turns to Brody and he says, "Hey man, last night I paid like $120 to get everybody into the club." He's like, "So you need to pay me that back out of the slush fund." Brody goes, "Sorry, sorry, amigo. There's no money left in the slush fund." 2 drinks later, Brody sees the shirts at the Deuce. He's like, "Those are awesome." He's like, "We're all getting a round of shirts on the slush fund." And the nut just goes, "What the fuck?" Never gets his money back, but we all have Deuce shirts now. From there, we all meet up back with you guys.
Yeah.
And we decide to go to a nice little club called Bodega.
Bodega, one of my favorite words.
Yeah. So now I've been drinking since about 10 a.m. at the track,
Yeah.
lost some money at the casino, and I'm having a good time at Bodega.
Now, Bodega is cool because when you enter Bodega, it looks like just a pretty normal, small hipster taco shop.
Yeah.
And then you go through a bathroom, and then you go through the back door of the bathroom, and you enter into a magical world. That's like a very cool nightclub.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my favorite part is that I guess you thought you discovered this nightclub or something. I believe that's how it was described. That the nut
Hey,
was like,
guys.
yeah, like you come bursting out of the exit. Like, guys, you gotta check it out. Check it out. Come with me. Come with me. Come with me. And then you like led us through the bathroom like an excited like kid on Christmas or something like that. Like you had had this awesome discovery.
Yeah.
And then the nut who had arranged this place was like, yeah, that's literally the point of this place is that there's a bathroom door that gets you to the club that Mike did not know about.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
I
It was
loving
pretty awesome. I thought we kind of discovered something too, though. But I was feeling really good.
The lesson is essentially everything we think we discover, Nut has planned 3 months in advance and called somebody that he knows and he's worked it out. But anyway, the reason this club is notable to me is because apparently they have a no hat rule. Like we're back at like Kingdom in Burlington, like dancing to
Good reference.
yeah, the modern reference. So I was wearing a hat. I was wearing my Hamilton, Ontario hat, having a good time. Very drunk, not gonna lie.
But we were there for like 3 hours.
With
before,
the hat.
Yeah.
When it turned in, I think there's a point in the night where it turns into a club. And then it's like the bouncers or whatever. So he tells me to take my hat off. I say, okay, I take it off. The minute he turns around, I like put it back on and start dancing again, kind of having a laugh. I thought maybe I'd get a warning. And he immediately was like, that's it, you're out. So I get kicked out of the club. So I'm like, man, this sucks. But I look around and everybody's having such a good time. I'm like,
how angry were you?
I was actually, I acquiesced, and I'd been drinking. And when I came in, I made note that there was a McDonald's across the street. So I kind of had like a good exit plan anyway. Yeah. So I'm very drunk. I go to the McDonald's. I get 2 filet-o-fishes, a supersized fry, a drink, and I get in a cab, and I'm going to go back to the hotel. This is my plan. I'm like, this is a great opportunity to call Danica, say what's up. But I also don't want to tell her I get kicked out of the club because then I'm going to seem, I already seem drunk.
Yeah.
But I'm going to seem like I did something wrong if I got kicked out of the club. But now I'm not making sense because she's like, why aren't you with everybody? I'm like, I'm in a cab. She's like, why are you in a cab? I'm like, I'm going back to the hotel. Why? I don't understand. Well, you're not making any sense. And then I'm like, I guess at this point I got offended that I wasn't making sense. And I'm like, as if like me checking in should have been good enough. So I'm like, I'm just going to eat my damn food. And I get off the phone and that's that. Get back to the Marriott. Get out with my fucking bag of food, look around, realize I'm at the wrong Marriott. I'm at the Marriott downtown.
By the way, our hotel from the club, from Bodega, was probably like a 5-minute drive. To get to that Marriott that you went to would have been like a 20-minute drive.
I don't know.
You had to go across a causeway to get to that.
I don't pay
Marriott
attention to these
downtown.
things. I was just like, I'm reading Twitter, like I'm drunk, I'm trying to eat the fries out of the bag.
Fast, you know?
So anyway, it ended up being like a $60 American mistake to get back in the cab or whatever. So that was a nightmare. But by all accounts, Bodega was amazing. Everyone had a good time. Actually, this kind of gets to the question about checking in. How often did you call Lauren? Or what is the responsibility of a bunch of bachelors on a trip to check in with your significant other?
Well, I have to travel a lot anyway, so Lauren is used to me being away. And Lauren is like kind of shitty on the phone. Like Lauren's like she has this dog. Her family has a dog named Forrest who kind of forgets who you are after if you've like left for a day. Like just will look at you with like, who the hell is this person? Lauren's kind of like that with me. So like even when I call her, she's like, who is this guy talking to me? And then even when I come home, it'll be about like a solid 6 hours of her feeling me out. And we've been dating for almost 7 years. So Lauren, I don't think Lauren likes spending that much time on the phone anyway. So I am in a position where I don't actually have to check in that much.
Yeah, I found that I was getting like mean texts from Alex a lot. Like I wasn't checking in enough. But I think I'm pretty good, but I've never been a check-in person. Like growing up, I never had to check in with my parents. I never like, if I slept over at a friend's house, I'd kind of just do it. I wouldn't, you know.
Is it insulting though to even call it checking in? Shouldn't you want to call your significant other?
I don't know. I kind of like saving the stories for when you're back. So it's kind of like this fun thing. So I'm just like, hey, what's up? But yeah, and you know, I called her a couple times, but Alex, like nothing's ever good enough for her. And she kind of like checking in wise, because she always wants to be at the party.
Yeah.
So, and she hates bachelor parties more than probably any wife in history. So this was extra hard. Yeah. Like I got like, you'd think if you just knew us from this trip that like we had the worst marriage ever. Right. But really, we never really argue except when we're apart. It's funny.
Interesting.
Not haha funny, but yeah. Like sad funny. But yeah, what was really funny I found was how crazy we were being at the club without getting kicked out.
I know.
And that bouncer must have hated you.
Yeah. Like I showed him up. That was the problem.
Like Julian had his shirt off and he was throwing it around like, and the guy's like, hey, put your shirt on. And then Julian does the thing where he put the shirt on his head, which is showing him up. But it got like such a good reception.
Well, Jules said that the guy said to him, you're out. And then Jules like just was like, come on, man, I'm just joking. And the guy's like, okay, you can stay. I'm like, that's all I had to do?
Well, I was doing like, you know, my fellatio bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like I walk around.
Just that exchange alone sounded a lot worse than it was.
So I walk around, for people who don't know, and I kind of like will pretend I'm like orally filleting a guy. It always gets a big laugh or kind of a reaction. But so I went in the washroom. I thought I'd take it really extreme. And I kind of got on my knees and peeked down. I'm like, it's amazing in here to all these girls. And I was like blowing the guy who gives you like gum and turns on the thing. But he was kind of laughing. And then I crawled out on my knees. And all the bouncers were kind of just like smirking and laughing. And no one kicked me out. So it blew my mind that you actually got kicked out, given everything that was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say bouncers generally love Julian.
I know.
Yes.
Like, because he's got the big old dumb grin on his face. Julian's bit on the weekend was flexing and getting people to like feel is how big his biceps are.
And ask if they need assistance.
Yeah, that's it. Do you need assistance? Just flexing with his shirt off wherever he went. People loved it. Because Julian's in shape, but he doesn't have particularly big muscles.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, Jules and I had a bit too where I said one night all I'm gonna do is bad jokes. So I was just talking out my butt like Ace Ventura, like acting like it was original material. Or I'd be up at the bartender, I'd be like, 5 shots, please. It's okay, I'm wearing a bulletproof vest. And then it was just like awkward, and the bartender would have to laugh. But we had like really funny night that way.
So speaking of late night activities, Shane, I heard you tried to order a pizza. I didn't hear the full story.
Yeah, this isn't a good story, but I love Domino's, so I kept trying to call Domino's repeatedly.
Okay, me and Unzi, our good friend Matt Unsworth, who's been on the pod, we're in bed. We'd order our McDonald's. We got super bad on the TV. Shane comes stumbling into the room.
This was maybe my drunkest night, too.
Lays down, and he's like, I'm getting Domino's. And he calls up Domino's. He's like, hey, I'm from Canada, and I want cracker crust. And he's like, you got cracker crust? And he's like, oh, you're from Australia, because the guy's speaking Australian. And he's like, oh, okay. And he puts him on hold, and Shane starts laughing. He goes, and we're like, what? And he goes, the guy that answered the phone is on the recording. He's also speaking Australian. And so me and Unzi, we're like, okay, weird, whatever, that's funny. And then the guy comes back, he's like, no, cracker crust, like the Marriott, you got it. And he's trying to explain it to the guy. And then Shane gets quiet, he goes, oh, shit. Okay, well, a good day, or whatever. He hangs up. He's like, there's a in Miami, Australia. We're like, you've been talking to Australia this whole time?
But I kept calling them back again and again.
Like, was that out of confusion, or were you just trying to be funny? You were kind of doing your own thing over there.
I was so hammered that night.
Well, it was a great trip.
Yeah.
Everybody have a fun time?
We had a great time.
Well, all the best to both the grooms, Sean and Peak, our dear and beloved friends.
Shout out to the Nut for hooking us up, Brody for organizing the whole damn thing, Kevin Jeff for being the finest dairy farmer that we know.
Yeah, and a fine group of 20 young men. Youngish.
Ish.
So today on the show, fellas, we have the cast, creators, directors. We have the whole boat of the show Vice Principals, which will be on HBO Canada Sunday, September 17th at 10:30 p.m. It is the season 2 premiere, so it's exciting stuff. So we are going to start with Jody Hill and
my man, David Gordon Green.
That's right. He's directed films like Pineapple Express, which you know. So he directed a bunch of these episodes of Vice Principals. Jody Hill and Danny McBride actually created Eastbound and Down. So that's how you know who Jody Hill is. And those guys open up. So it's Jody Hill, it's David Gordon Green, and they just sort of speak to how they got in the industry, how they met each other, how the show came about. Jody Hill has a really funny story about how he was banned from Canada because he was trying to smuggle in cigarettes when he was a young man. So that's the tease for that. And then after, you're in for a real treat because we have the stars of Vice Principals, Danny McBride and Walton Goggins. And we did these interviews at Just for Laughs, and it was great. It was just, I'm a huge Danny McBride fan, so it was really cool to sit. We did this at the Hyatt in like a sort of a ballroom sort of thing where they were doing like a bit of a junket, but Shane and I just sat down like at a table with both sets. So the first set came over, Jody and David, and then Danny and Walton came over. And what were your thoughts on the exchange?
It was awesome. Well, the first thing, I was a little nervous because I heard a rumor maybe he didn't want to do a podcast. So I was like, uh-oh, he's going to be...
Danny McBride?
Yeah, I heard a rumor that he doesn't like doing podcasts. So I was like, maybe he's going to be a little like condescending or whatever. But he was the nicest guy ever, as you experienced too. And that Walton guy, he was super nice too.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And Danny McBride, for some reason, had his hair dyed blonde, which we did not ask about. But, you know, I'm guessing he's shooting a film, or maybe he just likes to dye his tips blonde.
Did you ever see Walden in Justified?
I've never seen Justified.
He's so
People love that
He's
show.
so creepy in that show. He's amazing.
Well, this came up a lot because after that they did a huge panel to like a full sort of like ballroom, and they talked a lot about sort of Walton Goggins' other work and how people like love him from Justified and come up to him all the time. And he was an intense guy and very honest about his sort of path and acting, his career, and the idea of doing comedy with Danny and how he approaches it. And like I said, I think you're in for a real treat if you're a Danny McBride fan, because I think a lot of people see him as like Kenny Powers from Eastbound and Down and these things, but you actually get to hear him from the perspective of a creative guy that grew up in the South that really tried to chase his dream in LA, and he's getting to do it with his childhood friends.
Yeah, and Walton's in Hateful Eight too, which most people will recognize him.
Yeah. You guys want to get to the interview?
Let's do it.
so we're just gonna start. If you guys don't mind.
Sure. Do it.
Yeah. Sweet. You guys up here often?
I've been to Montreal before. I've been to Canada a number of times.
First time Montreal.
In Montreal. About 20 minutes ago, I just landed.
I tried to come to Montreal. Me and John Kajiri back in college tried to come to Montreal.
I remember that.
We were going to sell cigarettes here. We had a bunch of cartons of cigarettes. And we got stopped at the border and actually got banned from Canada for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. But they didn't know that when we came in, so they let me in. It was nice. Yeah.
Why were you going to sell cigarettes up here?
It was a long story, but a buddy of his had a check scam going in college where in order to cash these fake checks, you had to go to the grocery store and spend 10% of it. So they would buy cigarettes and we would sell them on campus. And at the end of the year, we had like 250 cartons left. So we packed them into the car. It was the worst scam, too, because like we heard that American cigarettes went for a lot. And there's like a rest stop right before you get to the border. And we pulled over, and that's where we like hid the evidence with like our laundry and stuff. It was, like,
wow.
Yeah, it wasn't the best like smuggling operation.
Banned for 5 years for trying to smuggle ciggies into Canada.
Yeah, totally.
I like that. That's great. I mean, I wanted to talk sort of about the run that you've had with HBO. And it would seem that, like, based on the material and the subject matter, that the studio doesn't really interfere a ton. How much conversation, I guess, happens with the studio when you guys are working on something like Vice Principals?
A lot happens at the beginning, but at this point, we have a lot of trust built up with Casey and Amy, especially Casey Bullies and Amy Gravitt. They were kind of got their start when we got our start. So
y'all kind of grew together?
Yeah, we sure did. Yeah, and now it's kind of like the inmates are running the asylum over there. So whenever they give us notes, it's generally like really coming from a good, smart place. So we take their advice, especially the good things, and run with it. But then when it comes to the show, they pretty much leave us alone. I mean, has that been your experience too?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just nice to have the people that you're creating. You come to them with an idea. You're trying to create a cool show, but you've got great collaborators on every level. For us, from the actors, obviously the writers that put it all together, but then to have some a company like HBO behind it with voices that actually are practical, make sense, get what we're trying to do, and are supportive of that. So notes are always helpful, actually, in that scenario where I know in a lot of other endeavors they can be debilitating in some way, but here it's really, really helpful.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you're both originally from the South. I guess like we're at a comedy festival right now. You guys are about to do the panel. Would you say there's like a unique brand of humor sort of from the South? And like I guess like when you're working together, is there a shorthand because you both share similar roots?
That's interesting. I mean, I think I would hate to think that it just is a regional categorization of comedy because you hear about a lot of different voices and I don't know. There's certainly a lot of comedic voices from the South, some of which I think are hysterical, some of which I don't particularly care for. So
Jody's laughing right
but
now.
I just a few names popped in my head when he said that.
but I think there is a sense of humor, a sensibility, and we do try to bring an authenticity of a voice. As absurd and surreal as these shows can get, they come from places that I think we laugh together. I grew up in Arkansas and Texas and Jody in North Carolina, but I think we recognize a lot of similarities in the voices and the characters we've met in our lives.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with David.
What he said.
Yeah,
said. You're just going to smuggle some more cigarettes? I guess it's also been, we all know that there's not going to be a third season of Vice Principals. This is it for season 2. What was the decision process behind that? I think there's obviously value in going out in a good place and controlling your own destiny as a creative. What was the thought process behind that for you guys?
That's it. I think that's just always been part of the deal. I mean, we did that with Eastbound and Down, although it ended up going an extra season because essentially we couldn't get Katie Mixon, who we had sort of what you saw with Eastbound was a combo between the original like relationship ending of that we wanted to do, and then like sort of like the career got tweaked a little bit by going an extra season. But that one wasn't canceled either. We ended it, and we wanted to do it in 3, but we compromised with 4 just because we were able to get Katie for the 4th season. We weren't able to get her during the 3rd season because she was on Mike and Molly.
Right.
So with this one, it was just like 2, and HBO was lucky enough to like really let us shoot it all in one piece, one kind of thing. So it was like I pretty much did the 1st season, David did the 2nd season, and with the whole show was edited and everything before it was ever shown to anybody. And personally, I mean, that's the way I think that like you're going to get the best product, because sink or swim, it's going to be something pure that it's just like you and your friends are like digging on and everything.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, when you do and when you do a TV pilot, traditional television pilot, you kind of test the cast, and then there's recasting, or you test the concept and think, well, this really worked because of the focus group, or this didn't. Or, you go season 2 and you think about what worked and what didn't. But what was kind of, certainly unique about this experience is like, let's do 2 seasons at the same time. One season, then immediately do the second one, have a different director, different cinematographer tackle each of these seasons. So there's a similarity, but also there's differences between the 2 seasons tonally and the look, and trying to not just fall into the traps of success and formula, but starting this, really seeing this all the way through as a unique vision. I don't know if, do you talk about the fact that you and Danny wrote it as a movie originally?
Yeah, there was originally after Foot Fist Way, I want to say that was 2006. That summer, we got together and we're just like, we got to write another movie or something. And we went down to, like, Danny had a buddy with a place by this like river and stuff. It's really kind of funny. So for like a week we went down there and just like wrote the screenplay. And it was a cool idea. We thought it was funny. 2 vice principals fighting to become principal, and
This is around the mid 2000s. You guys are
this
writing
is
this?
2006. I want to say maybe 2007, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And it sat there for years because in the second act, when you need like to learn about the characters and all this kind of stuff, it really just felt like bits essentially, because there wasn't enough time to kind of like go to some of the places we wanted to go to. So, Danny's really the one who pushed for this to be a TV show. And it works so much better, in my opinion, because you just are able to like do these side stories with like Walton's character and Kimberly's character and all this kind of stuff, and really just kind of dig into like who these people are, which is the kind of stuff that I think like if there's something that separates us from like the other guys doing comedies, I'd say that's probably one of the things. It's just like we all kind of enjoy like digging a little deeper, into things, and also not having to necessarily have like a plot type. Everything doesn't have to revolve around this like plot. You can go on these little side adventures and kind of just see little weird aspects of characters. And I think you're going to be psyched when you see second season, because there's a lot of that David did, really. That
you delve into sort of more like character background, character development.
Yeah, sometimes take a little detour and leave the kind of traditional structure that, even within the show, kind of establish here's who they are and here's what they do, and then to be able to detach from that a little bit and see something on the other side of the planet, I think is just kind of a fun way to expand the universe and the mindset, and know that people aren't just falling into their own traps and cliches
in order to serve the plot or like
Right.
get from point A to point B.
Totally.
Yeah, it feels a little more organic that way, and it's also just cool because as Jody and Danny developed these characters, I remember reading that screenplay so many years ago and seeing them grow, and just as a fan of those characters in that world, wanting to know more and why did they do this, and peeling it back a little bit is really fun to explore.
When you write a script like that with like sort of 2 strong leads, obviously Walton is in that role. Was Danny always going to be the role he was going to be?
I mean, yes, but
I remember conversations going on either.
Yeah, but he was talking about either role. I mean, like Danny does this little voice for that character that's you hear him talking back there. Like it was really funny, but Walton really like got it right away.
Sure.
Like I think it's him coming from the South and everything. He's seen these kind of people before, and he just started doing the voice like right away, and it was kind of like, okay, this guy gets it. Like he's the best man for the job.
You know what's funny? I found the other day. I just moved. I'm actually where we shot the show in Charleston, South Carolina. I just moved there, so I've relocated there permanently now. And I was unpacking some boxes, and I found a napkin from when I was at a bar in Charlottesville, Virginia, in 2003, where I met Walt for the first time. And he wrote his number on a napkin and said, "We got to hang out. We got to work together." 2003. And I found it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And you kept the
I
napkin.
kept the napkin.
Wow.
So
Man.
did you
Full
have to audition Walton, or is it just like, hey,
No,
this
I mean,
is
his
gonna
body
work?
of work, just
Exactly.
just even the snapshots of his career from, The Shield, The Sons of Anarchy, and Justified. I mean, just the intensity of that, and actually, I remember talking to him on the phone and just hearing his, like, he'd be talking about the character and then bust into the character on the phone and just laughing my ass off.
So you kind of have to find tricky ways to audition at a certain level. So it's got to become much harder. Like, what if it doesn't work? He hires an
Well, chemistry's so important
That,
for
that
something
gets
like
a little
this.
scary when, outside of the show, because I think we got lucky and David obviously knew him, and we had read him for Eastbound and Down for Jason Sudeikis' role and stuff
really?
like that. Yeah, but it does get a little weird when you get big stars because you're never sure. Like you think it's going to work out, and you usually do like a phone call, you know, kind of thing.
And some won't audition. You know, some actors get to a point and they're like, I'm not going to audition, and that's nerve wracking because just because they have a great resume doesn't necessarily mean that they've got it. But I don't know, man. Just you need somebody that's brave, that gets the technique, and is also playful and can break the rules, break their own rules.
Yeah, we were talking to Edgar Wright like a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about, we were asking, you know, that process where it's like you're obviously not going to audition a Kevin Spacey or something like that for Baby Driver, and sort of like the nerve-wracking thing, and when it doesn't work, when you get an actor that didn't audition, you're like, he's like, the voice is too big, and we're like, tell us who you're talking about. He's like, I'm not going to do that. Have you guys found yourselves in that situation before with actors?
And give us names if you have.
How do we answer that one? David, you want to take that one?
I don't know. I think I'm just a glutton for punishment, and I love, you know, when they bring it on, and they bring the weird ideas and stuff like that. I love getting in the arena, and you know, even when I worked with Nicolas Cage one time, and we just had a blast trying to sculpt a very restrained character. You know, and he's an actor known for his bravado and in Western kabuki, as he puts it. But being able to but he's got the charisma I want, and then how do I sculpt it?
What is
that's his own brand, man.
That's what he brings.
Well, I guess lastly, because we're wrapping up here, David, you're working on a new Halloween with Danny McBride. Is that true?
Yeah, Danny and I just turned in the script, and we're gonna hopefully start shooting that this fall.
Well, I mean, you jump around genres, it would seem, is sort of your thing. And like, do you plan to take any sensibilities to something like Halloween, like maybe some comedy elements or comedic elements, or are you going to strictly do a horror movie?
That's strictly a horror movie, and you know, I'll be at the Toronto Film Festival in September with a new drama I just did with Jake Gyllenhaal and Tatiana Maslany.
She's amazing.
So yeah, I mean, she's one of my idols.
She's a Canadian treasure.
Absolutely. So
How come I don't know her? Where's she from?
She's from Orphan Black.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. She's
You just
very
can't pronounce her name.
No,
but she's
yeah.
phenomenal.
So to me, the joy is to jump from something literally that's within a year is just doing, you know, jumping from you know, a hilarious TV show where you're laughing every day to a dramatic movie to, you know, a slasher film, and just exploring, you know, directing just like an audience explores their entertainment.
Yeah, wait till you see this film he just finished, the one he's talking about with Gyllenhaal. It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah?
I loved it personally. Yeah.
I mean, actually, that's an interesting question. I mean, how much do you guys as creatives show around your work to peers?
We tell all the time.
Like in various
You
states
got to
of
keep
finish?
each other in check.
I
yeah.
need it. I want people to like.
You want feedback?
Oh yeah, I used to get my feelings hurt. Now I want people to criticize me, especially my friends.
Tell me what
it's
sucks now before the world is suddenly before much music has their way with me.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for your time. Man. We really
talking to you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cheers. All right, so we're just gonna talk into these microphones. If you fellas don't mind.
Do we leave them on the table or do we hold them? You put them in your mouth. You put them all the way in your mouth.
You guys just got into town, Montreal?
Yes, last night. Yep.
Last night you got it.
We had an incredible dinner last night at a place called.
Oh, I think you're off.
No, you're off.
Am I on?
You're back on, baby.
No, we had a great dinner last night at a place called Joe Beef. It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
We're just off meat recently.
So Joe Beef
Oh
sounds delicious.
well, that's why you weren't invited. That's why you guys weren't invited.
Is
But,
it a vegetarian restaurant by any chance?
Yes,
It
it
is.
is.
Joe Beef?
Yeah,
All cabbage. That's all they serve.
So I want to start with Walton. You hadn't done a ton of comedy before Vice Principals.
Yes.
Well, obviously, you guys haven't seen Major League 3.
yeah.
Back to the Minors, starring Scott Bakula. Oh, I've seen it.
No. I mean, not comedy. Kind of in the. I mean, I've never been on a sitcom for NBC or something, something like that. So, but no kind of overt. Hey, look at me. I'm going to say something and I want you to laugh. But I think I think The Shield was one of the funniest shows on television, to be quite honest with you. And
Right.
I think Boyd Crowder was very, very, very funny. I mean, it's Elmore Leonard, Justified, and so I have been given an opportunity over the course of my career to, as an actor, play things very serious, very, very seriously that happen to be also very funny, and that's what I'm attracted to. I don't know that I could do I'm not going to say the person's name, but just a romantic comedy that has nothing to it. You know, if I don't feel something, if I have like apathy towards the subject matter, then I personally couldn't do it. I think
Well,
that's the
just
only way that I
buy-
could find.
Get a
humor.
bigger house, get some credit card debt. Then
Yes.
you'll see
Yeah, then
how
I'll do
it's-
it. Yeah,
I'll
do
anything.
Perfect. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Well, I guess Danny, I was going to ask that you directed the 3rd episode of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Is directing something that you're looking to do? Does the idea of directing a feature interest you?
Yeah. I met Jody and David actually at School of the Arts, and that's what I was there for, was directing. And I ended up just acting just because the drama school at School of the Arts wasn't allowed to work with the film school. They were afraid that all the inexperienced directors at the film school would like ruin the craft that they were teaching these guys. So meanwhile, I got an acting career. I thank them for that. But I've always been more interested in what is going on behind the scenes than what's going on in front of it. But I've been really lucky in the sense that I've been able to work with these different directors that I've always admired, and seeing how all these different guys operate and how they work. And so I would love to be able to step behind the camera and use some of that.
How did you make the shift then? If you wanted to start as a director, is it just like you had a natural talent or something like?
I moved to LA and was PAing and waiting tables, and then I've got a job doing motion control for like behind the music and history channels, like a camera operator for those guys. And and then David called me up to he had an actor drop out of All the Real Girls like the day before they were going to start filming, and I'd been in these guys' student films and stuff back in the day, and so he was like, "Hey man, will you come and do this? I think you'd be able to rock this out." And so I went and did it, and didn't have any interest still in pursuing it. But then Jody was going to make a movie, and he was like, "Hey, you were in David's movie, so you've been in one more job than anyone else that I now will you come do the Foot Fist Way with me?" And then it just the work just started to come from that.
Didn't that come with like didn't David say when that actor dropped out for All the Real Girls, he said, "Who's the funniest person that I know?" And it's you.
Like, that's what he said. That's how the story goes.
That's the
I
story.
don't know if it's true or not. But
Yeah. Okay.
Well, this is an interesting. How long have you guys known each other, you two? Because I think chemistry with any sort of two leads is an interesting thing, and sometimes it's hard to develop. Sometimes people get cast and it doesn't work. How much did you guys have to work on that leading up, and was there something established before?
We haven't known each other as long as I wish we had known each other, but we do have a lot of friends in common, and I've just been a fan of these guys for so very long. I've known David from the independent film circuit for upwards of like 15 years, socially, and Danny and I actually ran into each other and had some lovely conversations when he was doing End of the World and I was doing Django.
That's right.
In New Orleans, and I read for the 4th season of Eastbound and Down, and it was a great character, and I was so excited. I actually had braces on at the time, dude. I had braces on because I needed to kind of get this during this little bitty break. I needed to get this done, and they.
So these were legit braces.
These were legit. They were.
This wasn't
legit.
Character work.
No, these were the real. These are the real deal. And I got this phone call to come and meet with Danny and this crew, and it was a real dream come true for me. I really wanted to get inside that circle, and I whether I was good or whether I was really really bad, I didn't wind up getting the role. But what I did do is I just had a great time, reading their words, and that's that's what you look for, with anybody you want to collaborate with, is what they're fucking doing, and it's authentic and real, and yeah, it was cool.
And I've been a big fan of Walton's work, and to me, he's my favorite kind of actor. It's just like the idea of like what he was speaking to earlier, where he can be in these shows like Justified and The Shield, and he's able to find that comedy without pushing any of it. It just plays as real. And for us, that's what we love the most. Is like we love stuff that isn't just straight comedy. That does kind of ride that line. And when we wrote this character of Lee Russell, we didn't really know who was going to play it. And we were being pitched every comedy guy that you can imagine, and we just weren't. I don't know. None of them seemed like they had what it took. And I remember David and I were talking, and then we brought up Walton's name, and both of us instantly were like, "Fuck, that's exactly who this needs to be. Like somebody who is dangerous and funny and will bring gravity to this." And I remember I called Walton, sent him the scripts, and man, we had been auditioning so many people, and no one even came close. Everyone would push that character so far, they'd push it into caricature, and without any direction or even telling him anything about it, he had just gotten the scripts, and I called him on the phone, and he was just like doing Lee Russell on the phone instantly. And it was exactly how we had always imagined it, without any of us giving him any input on how we wanted it executed. And I just knew, I was like, this is it. This is why we make this show, is, we found Lee Russell.
Well, these characters, I couldn't imagine that they were based on anyone you know in real life, but I heard that your character on Eastbound and Down was based on John Rocker.
Well, you know, we get that all the time, but honestly, Jody and I knew so little about baseball, we didn't even know who the John Rocker was. And now that we since we wrote the show, obviously, we're not idiots. Like I started I started getting into baseball, and so then when people were like, "Oh yeah, isn't this based on John Rocker?" I was like, "It isn't, but it seems like it is."
Well, would I be correct to assume that these aren't based on real characters, or you take snippets from people you know in real life? Or
I think that with every performance, I feel like you always try to find I don't know, points of inspiration for characters.
Yeah.
For people you might have met or seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are affectations, of Lee Russell that I've certainly encountered, in the South where I come from, where we come from, and they're so dynamic in the way that they dress and the way that they can present themselves, and they're amazing people. So I'm sure it's it's really an amalgamation of 5 or 10 people that I knew kind of growing up, and then someone I've never met. I've never met anybody that's burned a house down.
that scene is insane.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know for sure.
Yeah.
We just found out that Jody tried to smuggle cigarettes into Canada years ago.
He's not supposed to be here, I don't think.
No, he had a 5-year
Jody tried to
ban.
smuggle cigarettes into Canada.
Yeah, he got after our freshman year of college. I think he smuggled in some cigarettes and got caught at the border, and then he wasn't allowed to come back. I think
It's a fact, yeah. Actually, David also told us a story that you wrote your number down on a napkin years ago and said, "I want to work with you one day," and he just recently found it at his house.
I did. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
true story. Yeah. Almost 10, 12, 13 years ago, something like that. Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting story going back. You said you were waiting tables and you get the call to be in the film. I mean, your characters tend to, like with Eastbound and Vice Principals, have such like a sort of an uber self-confidence, sort of like a real determination. When you're starting out and did you have that sort of faith? And I guess this question's for both of you. Is there sort of like a blind optimism or a bit of like a nativity in, I'm going to make it no matter what? Or were there times where you're like, shit, I don't think this is going to happen?
I always knew I never would have imagined that I would have found a career doing this, like acting. But I always knew I would be able to do this. I knew it because even when I got out here, I was like, I'm just not going to stop doing this until I can do it. It's like, I would wait tables and come home and write all night long and sleep for like 4 hours and go back to work. I just, to me, it was not only my hobby, but it was what I was interested in more than anything. So I just knew I was like, I'm going to stick this out. And then I got to LA and also realized that the competition wasn't that stiff. Like people were just wanting to be famous, and it's like a lot of people didn't have anything to say. And so I just felt like if I kept working, that I could find the opportunities I needed.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I agree with you. When I showed up to Los Angeles at 19 years old, I had $300 in my pocket, and I did it all. I mean, I sold cowboy boots, I personal trained, I had a valet parking business, and I really wasn't concerned with a career kind of on that level or centered around notoriety or celebrity. It wasn't about that for me. I just went to class every day. 4 days a week, and I studied and watched movies and understood what it was I was asking myself to do, and I knew that I would get an opportunity to do that. I never wanted to be Brad Pitt or didn't want to be Brad Pitt. I didn't want anybody else's career, and I wanted everybody's career. I just wanted to be good by my own yardstick, and really kind of understand story and to be around story. And I think that's what's missing today. Just maybe in young culture, it's like you think, well, if I just do this, then I'll get this, or if it's like
it's a means to an end always.
Yeah,
it's
that's
never
right.
about
As
the
opposed
process
to
of the work.
and the process and the work. Work begets work. Good storytelling begets good storytelling. And once you really enjoy what you do for a living, you just get better at it, and you enjoy it more and more and more and more.
Was there a moment where you said, I've made it, like this is it, whether it be in your bank going up or just those certain roles?
I think that all of that, it depends on kind of where you are in your life. I did The Apostle with Robert Duvall when I was 24 years old, and it was like that was the thing. And for that moment, I made it. He was my hero. 3 years ago, Quentin Tarantino writes me the lead in his movie, The Hateful Eight, and the day we wrapped, I get to star on a television show with Danny McBride and directed by Jody Hill and David Gordon Green. So at that point, I said, now I've made it. But there were, I think The Shield, I made it. I think Justified, I think you're constantly making it. But the difference between saying that to yourself at the age at where I am in my life now is I'm never going to lose it. Like there's nothing to be lost. I'm not holding on to something that I'm fearful of losing. I'm only looking forward and being grateful for the things that have happened thus far. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ultimately, the idea of success is it's kind of a moving goalpost. You get what you want, and then you want some more, and it always changes, right?
Yeah, yeah. But if you, I don't know. It's like sitting down at a table and looking at a buffet, and you're not reaching for the steak because you don't like the mashed potatoes. You just say, well, I just want to know what that tastes like, and then, wow, this is some cream spinach. What does this taste like? You know what I mean?
Not good if it's on a buffet.
Cream spinach. Yeah. I guess, Leslie, was there a moment like that for you, to Shane's point?
I completely agree with Walton. I mean, it's just like, there's nothing more anticlimactic than like something you've worked on actually coming out. It's you kind of, when you make these things in the beginning, your head kind of thinks that there's going to be this moment where like everyone turns around and looks at you. When it comes out, it's like, well done, you've done it, But that never happens, It's like, so for me, it just adjusts to like what Walton said, just the opportunity to do it is what it's kind of about, whether things you put your energy into find success or not. I mean, it's always awesome if it finds success because that can enable you to do it again. But ultimately, I think you have to find the success in just being able to spend your time doing what you like doing, kind of no matter what the results are.
Right. Thanks so much for your time, guys.
Hey,
we really
thanks
appreciate it.
for having us.
Welcome to The Dessert. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Jody and David and Danny and Walton. Vice Principals Season 2 premieres Sunday, September 17th at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on HBO Canada, so check it out. Shane, we're in The Dessert. You're the pop culture aficionado. What's going on?
I am. So speaking of pop culture, I actually I had my book so I could tell this a little better, but you told me to rush here, and I came from the gym.
Oh, sorry.
So I might tell this a little bad. But
I hope you're excited, listeners.
That's just a little tease of what's to come. But okay, so we just went on a bachelor party, and my plan was to go pretty hard on this trip. But then, like, what do you think, like, the weirdest thing you could hear before you went on a bachelor trip would be?
You need to quit drinking?
For some people, maybe the worst, or some people good. But what do you think's weird news to hear? The weirdest?
You're going to be a father?
Yeah.
Come on.
So, yeah.
Hold on. You're actually going to be a dad?
Yeah.
Wait a second.
First try. It's crazy.
This is crazy.
I know.
Yeah, Shane's tearing up.
I didn't think I would cry. Ah, shit.
Oh, my goodness. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, that's why I went so crazy on the trip. Like, partying. I did it for my son. We're all degenerates. Yeah, but so Alex and I were supposed to write each other an anniversary card, but we never did. So, but I bought her an anniversary card and just never filled it out. So then she's like, "Oh, I filled out an anniversary card for you that I want you to open before you go on the bachelor party." I was like, "Okay." So I open up this card right before we're about to go on the trip, and it's like, "Dear Shane, I love you so much. I know you're such a loyal boyfriend and loyal husband or whatever." I'm like, "Okay, like, I'm not cheating on you on the trip. Don't worry." And I kind of like stop reading at that point just to joke around, and then I keep going, and it's like, and she's like, "And the best father." And I was like, "Whoa," because she had already taken a pregnancy test and it said she wasn't. But then this one said she was. These ones. And she kept peeing on the stick, and it kept telling her the same thing. Different sticks, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. They're just twigs in the backyard.
2 berries mean prego. There were berries there. So then, and this is kind of a hard situation because it's like, there's a ton of theories probably saying don't tell anyone until it's like,
Sure.
So, but for me, it's hard not to say it. And it's like, it would be so hard for me to just go the appropriate amount of time. So I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. But then on the bachelor trip, like 3 drinks in, I just told Peak, like just in the water. And it's his bachelor party. So I kind of didn't want to like steal his thunder, but I just couldn't wait. So I told him, and then I told Matt Unsworth and Chelsea Buck's brother. who's just like, I don't know this guy from a hole in the ground. And Unzi was just like, oh yeah, cool. Like I was just telling people at the
Are we the last two to find out?
yeah. Because then Alex told everyone like on her baseball team, and there's some people that are on our baseball team. So I'm like, well, the thing was Alex back home, like everyone knows Alex likes to party. Everyone knew we were on a bachelor trip. So they organized like a girls trip where they all went out and drank and stuff. So Alex had it organized to drink fake shots, fake alcohol, and get in with the bartender. So anytime a group of shots came, the bartender would like wink, wink at Alex and give her just water. So everyone still noticed that Alex was acting weird, like very sober. And Ash Legs was like, something's up. So this was going to come out no matter what.
Wow.
But yeah, and so then I started really wanting a reaction from people because no one was giving me anything. So this
Like
guy,
on the bachelor trip when you were telling them nobody was reacting?
well, I just thought people would be more mind blown. But sober, I'm like, hey, don't. But drunk, I'm like overcome with emotions every time I'm drunk. So then at work, this guy who's works with me, but I'm like, okay, like. He's like, man, why were you partying so hard on your trip? He's like, I noticed in your Instagram stories you were going pretty crazy. I was like, well, here's why. I'm like, Alex is, and I do the tummy symbol. But I'm like, keep it down. Like, you can't give me a hug or anything, like, because I'm saving it for the pod to tell Mike. And then this guy goes, and he starts bawling. He goes, congratulations. I'm like, shut the up, like, don't say anything. I shouldn't have said anything. He's like, oh man, I gotta post this, and he's bawling. Did you notice this at all?
No.
Tears streaming. He can't believe it. He goes, "Fuck you, man, fuck you," and he's like all mad at me for telling him in the office, like kind of like how you'd expect like a stereotypical woman in like a movie to react or something. So I'm like, whoa, like when I tell my mom, I'm like, that's gonna be like the real crazy reaction. So I call my mom, and my mom's like kind of weird, like if you don't know her, but I'm like, hey mom, I'm Alex is pregnant. She's like, oh my god, and then so I'm like, oh, here comes the crazy reaction. And then she's like, how late did you and Brandon stay out the other night for his birthday? She starts talking about my cousin's birthday.
She
so
just
I'm
moves on.
I'm like, mom, like, come on. And then she's like, oh, I was just looking at your wedding album the other day. I'm like, okay, yeah. And she's like, and he looks kind of weird now that he's older. I was like,
Nothing's about the baby.
I was like, so I'm trying to get her back in. I'm like, oh, do you want to know the names? Because I'm like, we have the names. Like, should it be a boy or a girl? And like my mom's favorite show is I Love Lucy. So I'm like, she's gonna love this. She's gonna go nuts. I go, if it's a girl, we're gonna name it Lucy. And then she goes, Lucy. She's like, oh, that's like Lucille. It's like, she's like, I don't know. She's like, you're gonna think on it, right? I'm like, yeah. and then she goes, the name I do like though is Lucifer. And I go, Mom, that's Satan. That's like biblical Satan. And then she goes, but people name their kids Damien. And but like, isn't that a weird reaction for a mom? And I was like, okay, if it's a boy, it's gonna be Wells. And that was it. But,
Wells?
Yeah.
Wells Cunningham.
Yeah, after
So
this guy on the Bachelor in Paradise that we really like.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wells Cunningham. So boy Wells Cunningham, girl Lucifer Cunningham.
Yes.
Man.
I know. First, we only tried once. I got like potent crazy shit in here, man. I'm telling you. Like cum wise.
That's it. That's all. That's our episode.
Congrats to
Wow.
our brother Shane and Alex.
Brother Shane, sister
Shane.
Alex, Daddy Shane.
Mommy
Daddy
Alex.
Shane, yeah.
Wow. The pop culture aficionado, like
Papa
pops
culture.
culture.
Yeah, Papa culture.
Hey, well, I'm still shell shocked.
Me
Max,
too.
what are your
I'm
thoughts?
trying to, make sense of it all. Congratulations.
And she's due Mother's Day.
Appropriate.
Damn. Huge thank you to Jenna Gregory, Webmaster Dan. Who cares about all this stuff? Congrats to Shane.
Congrats
and,
to
Al.
Shane. Yeah. See you next week. If Shane or we don't, I'm at a loss for words.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Hope we don't die on the weekend and we see a little baby by Mother's Day.
Yeah.